Thank you very much. Good to see you all. I'm honored to be able to share my research at this conference. First of all, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Refan from Indonesia. I just finished my master degree at Gajah Mada University in Religious and Cross-Cultural Studies. So for my thesis research, I did research on Chinese folk religion by doing ethnographical study for 1 year in one of the old towns in Central Java, Indonesia. The name of the city is Magelang. So this presentation is kind of part of my research, which I tried to reorganize in accordance with the conference terms of reference, namely the concept of God in underrepresented religious traditions. So it is interesting to note that Chinese in Indonesia are minority, and they were once repressed by the regime in 1960s to 1998. So different with Professor Clark's that focus on the text, my presentation will be very much on the living people that doing their religions. So let me give a brief introduction. This research aims to explain the concept of God in Chinese folk religion, or CFR, drawing on my ethnographic research in Indonesia, in Java. So I will substitutely use God and deities at the same time. CFR is much more an academic terms. It is a heuristic concept that refers to a diverse range of Chinese religious traditions that extend beyond the established Chinese religious traditions, such as Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism. So we can say that CFR is more on exterior, but part of the Taoism, Confucianism, and Buddhism, which is those three teaching has been established as a teachings. However, the CFR is much more on the leaf religion. So I use the concept of leaf religions using the categorization put forward by Elizabeth Segman-Hurd. There are three categories of religions, which are leaf religion, which has to do with the religion as it is lived by the people, by the believer. And the second one, governed religion, the religion that has to do with the recognized religions by the state, the religion that is acknowledged as official religions. And the third is the expert religions. This is a kind of the religion that has to do with the religion that is studied by the experts. So my research will be very much on the live religion that is more on the living people. As such, the concept of God in this research is based more on a given popular narrative or understanding rather than on scriptural explanation as put forward by Professor Cox just now. So first of all, I wanna to put China's folk religion in Indonesian context. So the landscape of the politic of religions and religious governance is in Indonesia is majoritarian. So it hegemonically shapes the public understanding of religions, of course. And at the same time, it's excluding any other religious worldview that differs from Pancasila. So what is Pancasila? Pancasila is ideology that is used as a tool for religious governance. The first principle of Pancasila requires religion to have belief in one supreme God or ketuhanan yang Maha Esa, which is based on the world religion paradigm that is very much monotheistic. And in turn, in Indonesia, Abrahamic worldview that dominates the understanding of the people degrades religious worldview that is contradict to monotheism, such as polytheism, animism, and superstitions. So Chinese folk religion in Indonesia is seen as a backward, superstitious, and irrational, making its status more of as a culture or traditions rather than religions. Uh, in Indonesia, it is interesting that religion occupy the higher status than the traditions. So it only acknowledge it. It is only recognized religion that have a monopoly to define what is religions. So uh, Chinese for religions even belongs to the minority culture in Indonesia. So my research questions and argument will be first, how is the Chinese concept of God or deity, and how it differs from Confucian religion in Indonesia. Interesting to note that Confucianism in Indonesia is one of the official religion that is recognized by the state, making Confucian religion has to negotiate their understanding of God with the Pancasila. Second one, how is the concept of God in Chinese folk religion and negotiating in the Indonesian religious context? So I would argue that the concept of God in Chinese folk religion shows a distinctiveness that is different from Chinese folk religion in China or Taiwan, because the Chinese folk religion in those two countries is a major diffuse religions. It is very different case with Indonesia, which is the Chinese in Indonesia is minority and under and were once repressed by the state. So for the theoretical framework, I propose a relational epistemology that is put forward by Nurit David and to criticizing the Taylorian animisms, that is seeing it as a remnant of childish primitive behavior or epistemic failure to understand the natural phenomena. So relational epistemology is trying to liberate animism from that stigma as a childish primitive behavior that is failure to understand natural phenomena. Second theoretical framework is theory of agency put forward by Alfred Gell, and I will see deity as the agency also. And the third, religious geography. I argue that the main feature of Chinese folk religions is its locality. So therefore, Chinese folk religion is a geographical. That means religion is geographical rather than theological. This is method. As I said earlier, I use ethnography and do thick descriptions put forth by Clifford Geertz. I use discursive study of religion for the approachment. Okay, to put it simply, there are hierarchy in hierarchy of God in Chinese religions. We have learned from Mr. Cox that there are Tian or Huangti as a supreme God, as a personal God that occupied the higher status of the deities. The second one is tutelary deities that serves as a patron god for a local community. So this is the most important part in Chinese folk religion, that Chinese people have their own god that has their own deities as an agent to deal with their community. And the third is ancestor, that I will not spare this presentation to discuss ancestor. Chinese folk deities. in the Chinese folk religion, the main deity is a territorial deity that serving as a patron deity who oversee the life of the community. So the deity is a territorial and serve as an agency. The religious activities are centered on the content, or uh, in English, Chinese temple. So Indonesia has a special translation for Chinese temple. It is kelenteng. That is came from the sound of the bell. That kelenteng, kelenteng. That sounds like that. And deities in Chinese folk religion is against Xiao. Because of its character as a live religion, Chinese folk religions, uh, practical and pragmatic for its adherent rather than theological and scriptural matters, I argue that territoriality is at the heart of the CFR. So, live religions that Chinese folk religion is less to do with the theological and scriptural matters. It very much to do with the practical and pragmatical affairs for its community. So the one who serve as the patron for very affairs for the community is the deities, not the Tian or supreme god. So the community has a special relations with deities. So it means that deities, totality deities, is interpersonal, which is different from Tian. That is not that is people have not personal relationship with Tian, except he is king. So this stands in contrast with the Confucian religion, which has been heavily shaped by politics of religion that construct Tian with the concept of Almighty God. So in Confucian religion in Indonesia, Tian is monopolized as a supreme God. And I would like to put forward a Chinese folk religion paradigm to contending world religion paradigms. So I argue that Chinese folk religion is very much to do with animism. There is Chinese animism. We call it Zenism. Zenism means spirit. So spirit. So the Chinese animism is not backwardness, childish or primitive worldviews as understood in the world religion paradigm. So by relational epistemology worldview, cynicism features the human-God relationship that transcends classical animist understanding of God. Chinese folk religions rather has to do with reciprocal relationships, subject. So God as a subject and community as a subject that give each other meaning. The community gets its sense of belongingness from the shared gods. So community have sort of the sense of being community by shared gods. It then creates bonds of collective solidarity. While the deities get his status as a guardian because he has a community that he patronizes. So there are terms that She Hui. She means patron deity, Hui community. So Chinese community in certain regional call them She Hui, means community of the patron deities. Next, deity as agency. There are one specific terms to call deity in Chinese folk religions. This is a Kongzhou, means great grandfather in Hokkien. So Kongzhou is a title of honor for spirit that dwell on the statue that represent the deities in the context. So interestingly, during my ethnographics works in community, I just realized that Kongcho, the spirit, is not the deity unto himself. Kongcho is not the deity himself. He is a saintly patron spirit who represent the divinity of a certain deity for the community. So it's sort of the saint spirit that take a part as a dweller of the statue that represents sort of the Chinese deities like Quan Kong or Quan Im, etc. About who the spirit of the Kongcho that is represents deity, only certain people are able to know. And I would say that his role, Kongcho roles, is like that of an agency of community. That means anonymous agency. A saint, a saint spirit who serves as the guardian and patron of community in particular neighborhood. He may be ancestor of that community or someone. They don't know. What they do know is this spirit is dwell and represents for some deities. And the next is the idea of religious geography. I'm much inspired by Professor Clark's book, Spiritual Geography. So I want to put a word religious geography to figure out how to see Chinese folk religion in the proper manner. So the particular geographical and temporal circumstances of religious tradition and practice are the key feature of Chinese folk religions. So as religion is geographical, so deity is territorial. So therefore, Chinese folk religion featuring a kind of religious geography. I want to give some examples from my field work. Deification of local heroes. Since the main feature of the Chinese folk religion is locality, so it also accommodates the local non-Chinese saints as deities in their temple. There are deification of Gus Dur or Abdurrahman Wahid, the fourth president of Indonesia, who defended the rights of the Chinese and withdrew discriminatory policies against Chinese religion. So it is one interesting thing in Chinese folk religion that Chinese folk religion also accommodates local deities, local hero, and even they are deifying the local saints, even the saints is not Chinese. So we move to Indonesian case. So since this kind of religious view is stigmatized as enemies in a pejorative sense, so Chinese folk religion in Indonesia is stigmatized as enemies, making Chinese Chinese folk religion more the community managing to negotiate to make it more Abrahamic nuanced with trying to translate those deities. So the deities in the Chinese temples is referred to angels or malaikat. So the status of the deities is changed to angels to make it more Abrahamic nuance, with the Tian as the supreme god. So it is quite intriguing for me that to making the religious traditions more accepted by the public, they have to negotiate by changing changing the name of their deity with angels and put the Tian as the supreme god. So one example is Quan Kong. Quan Kong is the god of war, and in Indonesia, he he considered as angel of war that serve as that believed to have a power to protect any temple or any home. There are also Fu Jingsen, known as the god of prosperity. There is considered an archangel Dewa Bumi, as he is associated with the prosperity of the earth, where he is the patron of God. The next one is Chao Chun Ye, known as the kitchen god, and it also called the kitchen angel, who is in charge of recording the deeds of his community for a year to be reported to the heavens. So this angel of kitchens very close to the community because it has to do with the deeds of his community. So I want to try to bring up the question that put forward in the website and trying to answer it in the brief way. Can the concept of divine of such traditions be regarded monotheistic in Western sense of the term? Or are they closer to panentheism, pantheism, henotheism, polytheism? So I will argue that CFR can be studied within the framework of henotheism, actually. The view that the God is one that is attended by subordinate or lesser deities, or deified ancestor or heroes, that emphasize on the strict hierarchy of deities. The worship of one supreme God, but does not exclude the worship of other gods that is subordinated to the one. Conclusion, I want to put it simply, although there is the concept of Almighty God in Chinese folk religion, however, Chinese folk religion is centered more on the local deities, as it is a live religion for ordinary people. So, therefore, the concept of supreme God meant very little in CFR, as the community is very much to deal with the practical and pragmatical affairs in their ordinary life. And to better understand the Chinese folk religions, it is more appropriate to take an ethnographic approach rather than a textual approach. So to dive into the realm of the religious experience of the ordinary people that believe in the Chinese folk religion, it is not enough to approach it with a textual approach or theological approach. So we have to take an ethnographic approach to try to dive in the religious experience and what is the real real meaning of being religious for them. And I propose animistic terms, therefore, to go beyond the Western theisms in order to elevate the idea of animism, especially in philosophical accounts of God. So that's all for me. Terima kasih, Kamsya. Thank you very much.